We are always engaged in our practice, every single one of us. Now, it's less likely that we call it a practice if we're not engaging consciously in a practice, right? And that's where many of us are, is that we're just kind of living life unconsciously, unaware that we're making choices. Yes? But at some point, we begin making conscious choices for ourselves. And that may be as simple as, I'm going to put on my running shoes and get out there on the track and do 4 laps. And then, as we do that, we may begin to experience a happier way of being, right? And then something happens that we also need to be aware of, is that as we begin to change our lives, as we begin to change our habits, as we begin to change our actions, oftentimes, if it works, what happens is we begin to create a sense of our own righteousness around those actions. Have you ever noticed that? Imagine that your life is a mess. Your house is a mess. Your room is a mess. Your kitchen is a mess. And you decide that something needs to change. And you identify your suffering in the mess that your home is in. And so you determine, you believe that if you clean up this house, and if you make everything very, very tidy, and if you find a place for everything and a thing for every place, that you will somehow have achieved wellness. And so you do just that. You find the energy and you start cleaning. You do the deep cleaning, you do the shallow cleaning, you find a place for everything. And now your house is in order. And when you come home now, you see the order and you believe in the order and you sense that satisfaction. You have accomplished this, yes? And now you sense the righteousness, right? The goodness, the wholeness. There's a certain perfection, possibly. You've made your home so clean, and when you come home, you experience this, and you know you have changed. You remember when things were dirty, and now your home is clean, and this has become your practice. Yes, this is a metaphor, right, for how we may build a practice. In a sense, you've created your very own religion, right, or your very own spiritual practice, and it has to do with cleanliness, right? It has to do with order. And now imagine that somehow you end up at someone else's home, and their home is out of order, and there are dirty dishes in the sink. The stove has hamburger helper splashed on the stove top, and the kitty litter is full, unemptied, and you can smell it, and in the living room there are dishes that have been piled up and not cleaned, and in the bathroom there's a ring around the toilet. And you walk into this home, and it's very difficult, possibly, for you not to judge this home and the person who keeps it by your own standard of righteousness. Yes? Because you know how good it feels to have your home clean, right? And you know what it was like to be like this person who was suffering, who is suffering now. You can see their suffering. This is the dirty home now, you understand, is just a symptom of the suffering. And you have cleaned your home, and your home is in good shape. So if we truly believe that it is our clean house that is the proof of our own goodness, then what we may do is we may begin to try to help this person. We may begin to try to explain to this person how I once had a dirty house. And I believe that if you would just clean your home, that whatever is hurting, whatever is ailing you, whatever is the cause of this insanity that you're living in would be fixed. This is kind of what we do with others. This is kind of how we begin our spiritual journey. Oftentimes we get our own house clean, and then we try to help others to get their house clean. But what if, in sticking with this same metaphor, this same story, what if at some point maybe we've helped several people to get their houses clean? Maybe they've even, like the best possible scenario, and other people have responded and they've said, yes, I see the light. Thank you so much for helping me to clean my home, thank you for helping me to understand that I just needed to clean my home, and now I'm happy. Best possible scenario for the spreading of the good word, right? Maybe you've written a book about how cleaning your house is the path to salvation, right? And people have responded, and you've gotten accolades, and people have reinforced this idea to you that yes, your way is the right way, and all we need to do is clean our homes. Sometimes what happens, though, is we lose that sense of goodness or that sense of righteousness. That thing that we seem to do, that seemed to make us well, that seemed to be our practice. Sometimes that thing that we seem to do that made us well loses its significance, loses its meaning. Maybe you've experienced this. Maybe you've had some kind of practice. Maybe you've read a book, or maybe you've come up with your own practice, or maybe you've had a particular religion, in community, even with people, practicing with others, that at some point seemed to, the significance and the meaning of it seemed to degrade, seemed to diminish. Yes? So at some point, you've got the clean house, and it's just not, this act of cleaning the house is just not bringing the same satisfaction and the same joy. And in fact, maybe we become depressed again, and we start leaving little messes. And then as we leave these little messes around the house, now we've established this standard of success for ourselves, right? Now we know what success looks like because we've experienced success, and now we can rightly judge ourselves for having left these little messes around the house, around our house, which used to be so clean. And now so there's this standard by which we can rightly judge ourselves, and we can see now that we are failing once again as we leave these little messes. And oftentimes what happens is once we see these little failures, there's this thing called perfectionism in us. And if we can't do it perfect, then we don't want to do it at all, right? We can see that we're failing, and so somehow we buy into this judgment. And now we're split, right? Now we're split. There's part of us that has failed, and there's another part of us that is judging that failure. And this is kind of what it means to be double-minded, or to have a fragmented ego, right? To have a fragmented personality. It's when we have this one part of us that has failed, and another part of us that is judging that failure.